welcome to our channel, Naomi Poloni. Today, I'm Naomi and this is Mark, aka Papa Ginge. And today we are going to talk to you about what it's really like to have a fully electric car. This is something we get asked about now all the time, either from my followers on social media or even just when we're out and about, like our friends. We get stopped in car parks.
I got stopped at the tip once.
At the tip.
Yeah.
So I thought it was finally time that we made a vlog to tell you all about it. So I asked my followers on social media what questions they wanted to know the answers to. So I have a bunch of those that we'll try and answer today. But we'll start off just telling you a little bit about the car that we've got and how long we've had it for. So the car that we've got is a Kia e-Niro. And we got it in January. So how many months is that? February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September.
Because September and September's the 9th month. What?
8 months we've had it.
We had it in January, that's the first month.
Oh, you're coming it from there. All right, we've had the car for 8 or 9 months. This is a bickering married couple, this is. So we've had a decent amount of time to be testing it, is the point. We've used it. We've both primarily been working from home during this time, but we have used it for whenever we need to go somewhere on the weekends, and we've also been on a few trips, so we've been able to test it on longer journeys. Like we went to Arbroath in Scotland, in Angus, back in August, which was, oh god, how long was that? Well, I think it was supposed to be a 4-hour drive, but it turned out that it was a 6-hour drive, so that put it through its paces, and that was fine. So that's the car that we've got. So
just to clarify as well, it's the Kia e-Niro 4 Plus. So it's the one with the biggest range of the e-Niro range.
So the range on the car is 268 miles.
Yeah, that's the quoted range.
And what do you think it gets in real terms?
To be honest, it's not far off. I think we get probably 240-ish. It's hard to tell unless you count it, but we've never had a problem with range ever. Like we can get wherever we need to go, no problem.
I have to say, like, the questions were really focused on range. It's what everybody wanted to know. And I think that stems from when electric cars first came out and it was like, oh, you can go 30 miles and then you have to charge it up.
Yeah.
They just aren't like that anymore. Like, they have really big ranges and you would never be thinking about range in a petrol car. And I think that's just because, there's petrol stations everywhere. Maybe you are right now because there's obviously a petrol shortage at the moment. But it's not a concern of ours at all, is it?
No, but mind we don't do massive journeys, and obviously we don't drive to work anymore. But we'll get about fine. Like we go on like 30-mile drives.
Regularly.
And when you put a range of 240 miles ish, you can do that comfortably, and you can charge it home. You can charge it publicly. It's just never a problem when you think about it, because you drive somewhere, you go out for a bit, you get in the car and you drive home. Well, you're out for a bit, the car could be charging for free. Like, can you imagine going anywhere now and someone saying, oh, do you want £30 of free petrol? You'd be over the moon, but that's what happens. That's what it's like going on an electric car. You go somewhere, it's got a charger, you plug it in, you're getting free petrol, but obviously electricity in this case. It's
like you go somewhere to do a chore and you have more fuel at the end of it. It's like, that's not what it's like owning a traditional car. Like, you go somewhere and you've used your fuel and then you're going to need to top up your tank at some point. But with an electric car, it's constantly getting topped up. It's just a different approach to having a car, but we think it's loads better, don't we? We're like, we've been somewhere, we've got more electricity in the car, like it's great.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the same kind of energy as when you find free money. Like whenever we go on holiday, like if you always seem, I don't know why it's on holidays, you're really focused on finding some money. I don't know if it's people drop money more on holiday, but if you find some money, that's kind of like the same kind of excitement I get out of you as when you get free energy into the car. You're like, yes.
Yeah.
It's like you've scored.
Yeah, so whenever we go out, it's the first thing I do now. I'll go on, there's an app called PlugShare, and it's really good. It's showing you all the charging points around you. You can put in location, you can put in your postcode. It'll show all the electric chargers around you. So if we go somewhere and I check and there's one there, I'm excited about going.
I found you literally want to go to places just because they've got a charging point. You're like, let's go here. Or like, I'll say, do you want to go somewhere? And you're like, I don't know. And then you'll go on that app, you'll find out that it's got a free charger and you're like, right, let's go. You really get excited about it.
Not all chargers are free though, but the PlugShare app actually tells you which ones charge and how much it charges normally. And there's something called Charge Your Car, which is like a charging network. And if you get the Charge Your Car app and it's Charge Your Car charging station, it'll tell you if it's in use or not as well, so you can plan your journey better that way. So we've got a Charge Your Car 50 kilowatt charger about a 5-minute drive from where. So and it's like near a shopping centre, so we can check if it's in use and go there, charge the car for a bit, buy a Greg's pasty, and we're home with more charge. It's great.
Yeah, and we'll pop the links to those things in the description, so if you're thinking about it, you can download the apps and check it out and stuff. So I'll jump into some of the questions that our followers have sent, because that's probably the questions that you're going to be most interested in as well. So the first one is, do you need a drive to be able to charge it at home? This was a question that came again and again and again. Lots of people didn't have kind of parking outside of the house or like off-road parking, and they were like, well, what will we do if we want an electric car?
So it's a tricky one to answer, to be honest, because you've always got a fallback position that you can plug it in a normal UK 3-pin plug. So if you can run temporarily an extension lead to wherever your car is and use the 3-pin plug to charge your car and do it that way. It's going to do it very slowly. Like I'm talking, it's going to take, if you're going to 0 to 80%, it's going to be charging all day and night pretty much. But you've always got that to fall back on. It all depends on people's situation, if they're going to get a charge point installed. It all depends if you can get your power there. Obviously, it has to be a 6mm cable that runs the charger as well. And there's lots of things to think about. You have to make sure you've got a spare way in your fuse board.
A spare what?
I'm calling it a spare way, but it's got loads of different names. Like a spare fuse, spare breaker. There's lots of different things to call it. You need one of them as well. But there's lots of sites. That you can put your details in, and they'll actually do like a home survey and tell you what they can do and if they can do it, and there may be more costs if yours is a bit more trickier. Now, ours wasn't straightforward because our garage isn't attached to a house, and the cable that was going to the garage was too small, and we didn't have a spare way. So, but there's, again, electrician on board. There's ways around all sorts. So the only way to find out is to ask. Hello, it's me from another day. I just thought it'd be useful if I showed you how our electric car point is wired in. It's quite convoluted, well, kind of. I'll show you anyway. So here is our fuse board. The electric car charge point is wired in this 40-amp breaker and in the garage switch. And what happens there is there's a cable running from this, a 6mm cable running from this in the ceiling somewhere, I think. Comes all the way over here in the ceiling somewhere, down this wall, and then here. And then what used to happen is there was a 4mm cable running from here into the garage, and what we've had to do is upgrade that 4mm cable to a 6mm armoured cable. So the 6mm cable from the fuse board goes here, and then from here it's joined to a 6mm armoured cable which comes out there, outside, comes out here, down here, underground, all the way along here. All the way along here. And in the garage there. I'm in the garage now. It's quite compact. The cable runs up this wall into the break in the garage as well. You can't see it, but there's a 32-amp breaker there that's just for the charging point. And that cable goes from there into that box, black box there. And then the cable comes out that. Across here that you can't see, it comes out here. Along the wall. Through the wall here. And then out the wall to here. And there we go, that's our installation. Some people are lucky enough to have their fuse board and their drive at the front of the house, and then it's dead easy to get installed. Obviously, a bit more work. With some people, it's impossible. There's just no way around it. But I hope that was useful anyway.
We had lengthy discussions about whether we should even install the charger, and we really don't use it often. We use the free chargers and public chargers much more often than we use the one at home. My argument was, let's just not get one put in, because then we will have to use the public and the free charging points and save ourselves a bunch of money. And that is what we try to do most of the time. And I do think you could get away without having one and do that, depending on where you live and what you've got access to where you live. For us, like Mark says, our town has a good charging point, so it's really not difficult for us to charge ours. And like I say, when we're out and about, we're topping it up constantly. So I wouldn't worry about it. Obviously, if you do want to get it one put in, there are ways around it. But if I had a house where it was really challenging, I'd just see what was around locally, and I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, how many times have we charged ours in this 8-9 month period? How many times have we charged it at home?
Probably about 4 times, and even then we didn't really need to, probably.
Yeah. And it's a lot of money to get them installed.
I do, if you can though, I do think it's worthwhile just for the off chance that you need to. Say like something's dropped on you and you're like, oh my god, I have to go somewhere tomorrow and it's 200 miles away. You can plug it in overnight and it'll be charged for you. You don't have to worry about it. So yeah, it's nice as a fallback. I thought I would just show you what it's like on the car, because I love gadgets and the car feels like one big gadget. So press the brake down, press the power button, and this happens. I just love it. And then this is how you select your gear. Put an R for reverse, because I'm from the garage. I'll just back it up a little bit, because then you go in the garage. That's it. So you've got my reversing camera there. Then I just put it back in park, brake on, switch it off. One of the questions that I got asked over and over again on this as well was, how much does it cost to charge the car? And the first thing I think I should say when you're charging your car is something that I didn't know before we did this, was how, you looked at me funny there, was everything okay? I didn't understand before I had an electric car that basically it's very, very quick to charge the car to 80%. And the bit that takes the time is that last 20%. So we've got 268 miles on our range, so we can charge it up to that 80%, which is going to be more than we need pretty quickly. So most of the time, how long would it take to do that? All depends on the type of charger you're using. So if we went to the 50 kilowatt one that's near us, you could 0 to 80%, you should probably get it to like an hour maybe, and then from 80% to 100, maybe looking at another hour maybe. But even still, like, you know, people aren't always, you know, when they have a fuel car, like a petrol or diesel car, you don't always fill your tank full up, do you? You know, you might put 20 quid's worth of petrol in or whatever. So, you know, what we find is when you go somewhere and you charge your car, you know, you do however long it takes you to do your chores. So you might pop into town and be going to the post office or, you know, the chemist or whatever, and you charge your car for like 20 minutes and that's topping you up. Like the 80% that Mark said there, that might take an hour, that for us would get us to like 208 miles. You know, it's very rare we're going to need that. And you've got to remember, like, you're not using it the same way as you did a petrol car, where you run it near empty, then you fill it up, you run near empty, you fill it up. You're charging it as you go about your life. So you drive somewhere, you put on charge, you drive home, you drive somewhere, you put on charge, you drive home, then you put on charge at home. You're topping it up along the way, and then you may go on a long trip, which takes all your charge, and you plug it in wherever you're going overnight, and it's charged again. So we worked it out. Our charger at home, I'm just looking at where I've written it down here, costs 15 pence per kilowatt per hour. So for a full charge for us to 268 miles, it costs us £9.60. Which is like fantastic value for money, really. But still, even then, like, it's, you know, we just said we've probably done that about 4 times in the time that we've had it. We really make the most of free chargers, and I'm going to be gutted when electric cars become mainstream, which they will,
and these horrible capitalist companies are going to be like, right now we need to take all the money from them, and they start charging us loads of money for them. Because right now, being an early adopter, we just get to use free points all the time. There are certain places that don't have the free points, and then you pay a little bit, but still, it's not that bad, is it?
Yeah, you've got
Depends where you go, which one charger it is.
You've got to be careful because some will charge you more than what it costs to charge at home. And when that's the case, like, you might as well just charge it at home. So just be.
Yeah.
But like I say, look at the PlugShare. Know what your price per kilowatt hour is, and then when you look at this, if it's like 30 pence, that we went to the Metro Centre, which is in Gateshead the other day, the charges there of about 30 pence per kilowatt hour, which is like twice the price of charging at home. I think they just try and prey on people's like how convenient it is that because there's always electric charging spaces there, and it's obviously nice just to charge your car while you're at the cinema or whatever. Just be careful of things like that.
Yeah, and there's there's you get used to the places you go. So we go to one of the car parks in Durham. Which one is it? It's not the Prince. Is it the Prince Bishop's? We got the Prince Bishop's car park, and they give you 2 hours. Or is it 2 hours or 1 hour for free?
It's 2 hours.
2 hours for free, and then they charge after that. So we usually try and do what we need to do in 2 hours, and then we leave. But last time we weren't ready to leave, and Martin just moved it to a different charging spot and unplugged it and plugged it into a different one and gamed it that way.
Yeah. You see with them ones as well, they're quite slow chargers. They're 7 kilowatts, which is what we've got in the house. So that's not like the fastest charger. So your 2 hours isn't going to get you like loads of charge. So it's another thing. Just got to be smart about it. But if it's free, you might as well take your 2 hours.
Yeah.
Obviously, and then move on if you can.
Yeah. Somebody asked, how was it for camping? Could you charge it on the campsite? So we do camp usually a few times each summer, and it's been fantastic for camping, hasn't it? So we have, I mean, obviously you want to get a campsite, a camping spot with electricity is obviously your main thing, which we've done this summer. Sometimes we would get one without, but this summer since we've had the electric car, we've got a camp spot with electricity. So the plug that we need to charge the car doesn't use any more, I don't know the words. And what I'm trying to say is it's not worse than like a camping kettle, is it? Like it doesn't, I think a lot of people think like the car will be drawn in like insane amounts of energy.
It's fused at 13 amps if you plug in the 3-pin. So just, if you're going to charge at a campsite, maybe just check with the campsite that they're okay. Half the time they won't even know.
But I think even sometimes they think, you ask the people at the campsite and they don't know because it's relatively new, and they'll be like, oh God, you can't charge your car. But like you're like, well, can I use a kettle? Yeah. Can I use, a toaster or whatever? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. If that's fine, then charging your car's fine. But yeah, obviously it would be the polite thing to do to check. But yeah, you just plug it in and
using that because all electric cars will come with a 3-pin. I'm seeing UK, you might be watching this from wherever it still applies. It'll come with a charger that you can plug into your normal socket in your house, and it's meant to be for emergencies, but it doesn't have to be for emergencies. I've used mine plenty. Before I had the home charger, I plugged it in for a bit just to test it out. So when you've got one of them, you can plug them in campsites, no problem. It's just the same as.
So we've loved it. It's like every time we go to a campsite, we just like completely charge up our car. We go out somewhere, we come back, we put it on charge. It's been fantastic on holiday as well. So when we went to Scotland, that was, between a 4 and a 6 hour journey, can't remember. So we just made sure that the car was fully charged before we went. It was fully, we got there and then we just plugged it into the holiday home that we were staying. We just plugged it into one of the home sockets. And charged it back up again for our journey home, and it was, again, free for us. Somebody said, have we noticed a big difference in our energy bills? And somebody else said, has it affected what energy provider we've chosen to go with?
Yes. I switched to Octopus because they have a particular tariff for charging an electric car, but I haven't actually switched to it because we don't charge it at home very often. So like we said before, it's if you need to use it at home, yeah, you'll be able to go up however much you use it. It's as simple as that. But just try not to charge it at home if you can. I guess we don't really need to very often.
Yeah. This was a fantastic question because I know your response is going to be great for this. I just think this really shows the misconception around electric cars. Can it get up to speed quickly on slip roads? Jesus Christ. Right, Mike, that's too fast. Jesus, chill out.
You will have no problem with that.
I just love this. Loads of people ask that question like, oh, can it pull away okay? Can it get it? It's like, if you ask him one of those questions, you really need to go do a test drive of an electric car because
you'll get a shock when you touch the pedal, because you used to driving like a combustion engine car. You used to find your bind point and then pulling away slowly in first gear. In an electric car, all the torque's just there, so you press the pedal to go, and it's just whoosh. You've got to be careful.
Yeah, I was driving it the other day, and I would literally, I couldn't go slow enough for what I was ready to go at. It was just like you could move your big toe to just press the pedal. It's like boom, and it's like, you feel like you're in a Formula One car with your neck going back. Like they're so powerful, so much more powerful than traditional cars. Like, so I think there are still a lot of misconceptions. And the other day was a great example when I had an incident where I couldn't merge onto a motorway. It was a whole thing, and I ended up being off on the slip road, and then I couldn't. It was a whole thing. I'm not a great driver. Mark had to take over. And we had to get off was it a slip road? What was it called?
It was a hard shoulder, wasn't it, at that point?
It was the hard shoulder. And we had to get off the hard shoulder and on, and we were worried about whether we would be able to get on quick, and it was just no problem. You were just like, vroom, straight in the next lane, like it was no problem.
Yeah, because I think it's a common thing on electric cars. I know it's a thing on combustion engine cars as well, but you get different modes. So it's eco, normal, and sport, I think, in the Kia. To be honest, we always keep it in eco, because when you go to sport, and you pull away, your wheels are spinning. That's how quick it is off the mark. You're not going to beat an electric. You're not going to beat a petrol car in a race, but you'll absolutely burn them off from the line.
Yeah. Let's see what other questions we've got here. Is there anything that surprised you about going electric that wasn't expected? I don't think there was, because we'd done a thorough test drive before and we'd done a lot of research. So what I would really recommend is lots of dealerships. So we did a collaboration with Go Ultra Low Northeast and Lookers over in Sunderland, like a year or 2 years ago, where we did a full test drive for a whole weekend, and lots of garages. I know Lookers is one that lets you do that, where you can take the electric car for a few days. And I would really recommend you do that so you can get used to what it feels like, how fast, how powerful they are when you're accelerating. And having a go at charging it and just getting a feel for it, because that's a really good way to see whether it's something you feel comfortable with without actually buying one. So definitely recommend taking a test drive, taking a few test drives. The one we had for a full weekend was the Audi e-tron, which was like phenomenal, wasn't it? But I mean, they're like £80,000 or something, so we weren't going to get one of those. But so I don't think there was anything that really surprised us. I mean, when we did that test drive, and it's just how powerful they are.
I suppose you could see, if we think about when we very first tried an electric car, it was just
wow.
Yeah.
Like, we just didn't expect them to be as powerful. Yeah, I didn't expect to me foot to touch the pedal and just go. And another thing that I don't know if this should be obvious to people, but it wasn't obvious to me, is that most electric cars are automatic.
I mean, it's obvious to me.
Is that obvious to you? It wasn't obvious to me. Everybody's watching this going, she's really thick. But it wasn't obvious to me. And we had always driven cars with gears. What do you call those? Manual cars? Manual, okay. So obviously we have to get used to driving that, but it's a lot easier to drive an automatic car. And to be honest, I've never understood why automatic cars haven't taken off over here like they did in America, because in America the vast majority are automatic. But
I'll tell you why. It's because they're less fuel efficient. So, no,
Oh,
so fuel,
really?
like, yeah, it's much more expensive than America. So in America, they're just like, nah.
Oh,
Fuel,
right, I see.
that's pennies, and we're like,
Oh.
every drop counts because it's cost
Yeah.
about 50 quid for
Yeah. All right. Well, I didn't know that. So I think we've answered a lot of these now because a lot of people are asking the same kind of questions. I think this wasn't a question, but this one, this one's been asked a lot. Do we worry about running out of charge? And this links into one of my only negatives about having an electric car. So firstly, we don't worry about running out of charge. But within that, what I would say is one of the only negatives we've found is that often, maybe not often, but regularly, you will go to a charging point, a public charging point, and they won't be working. We've come to use their charging point and it isn't working. We are in Arbroath and we've got the charging point, but it always seems to be a challenge to get them working. You know, sometimes you go to an electric charging point and they're in use, but apps can tell you whether they're in use or not before you get there. But what I find is more frequent is when you get to one and it's not working because it's not being maintained properly, which is really frustrating. So what I would say is, whilst we don't worry about running out of charge and that kind of thing, we just are always aware that we would never leave it until right at the end. We would always leave it so if we went to one charging point and it wasn't in use, we would be able to get to another one. But like we've said, because you're constantly keeping it topped up when you're out and about, we don't really ever get low. But you know, it's exactly the same. It's just changing your thinking. It's exactly the same as with a petrol or a diesel car. Like, you know, you wouldn't want to let your tank run to like really empty. You know, you top it up in plenty of time, which is what you do with these. Another really frustrating thing that we found is, and this has only happened a few times, but it gives me the same kind of rage that I get when you go somewhere and somebody's using the parent and child bay when they don't have a child with them, is when you go, there'll be somewhere and it'll have two electric charging points and, you know, one might be in use and the other one is taken up by somebody in a regular car who's not using the charging point. Don't do that. That's so annoying. It's really frustrating. So yeah, but that's just people being jerks, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only downside, the only negative I would say. And I think as more people start using them, what we do is we report each time we go to one that isn't working to get somebody out to fix it. And obviously the more people that are using them, the more they'll focus on that infrastructure, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, what I've noticed is that it's the free ones that are regularly out of order, because obviously it's not making anybody money, it's costing someone money, normally local council.
Yeah.
The ones that charge, that somebody's making money off that, so you'll find they're not out of order very often.
Yeah.
But range anxiety is what it's called, and it's a real thing. But there's
I don't know why it is a real thing though. And
it's a real thing. If
I don't
you're
see-
doing regular trips, like 300 miles away.
yeah, I guess, but the majority of people who are facing that are doing those things in a regular car, a petrol or a diesel car. I just don't understand why, if you have range anxiety for an electric car, you wouldn't have the same thing for like a traditional car, because it's not like I would understand that if the range was really small, but the range is massive. And let's be honest, the vast majority of people aren't doing huge journeys every day. Like, you know, people are maybe doing like 30 to 45 miles a day at the most.
Well, we live in the UK, and like a long trip to us is 100
like
miles. You go to other countries, like you go to Australia and America as well, I think, and 100 miles is local.
Yeah.
So it's less of a problem in the UK. I don't think you really worry about range in the UK unless, like I say, you're some kind of like sales rep and you're going up and down the country all the time. Then maybe just don't get an electric car until the infrastructure is where it needs to be. But if you're like us, where you go on regular trips, but 50 miles, you've got nothing to worry about. And if you use the sat nav in the car, which it will come with sat nav,
that's a really good point.
It tells you if you've got enough range to go where you're saying you need to go. And if you don't as well, you can plan in like going to charge
Yeah.
station using the same map.
So we are just driving at the moment, and you can see it says we've got 65% of our battery, 162 miles. If I wanted to go somewhere, I could press search stations, and it will bring up all of the stations near us that we can go to. So it just gives you an idea of like what our panel looks like in our car and why we don't really worry about range and things like that. You'll always be able to see how much range you've got, and we can just click a button, which always gets me. And whenever I'm trying to put the radio on, I click stations, and it doesn't mean on our car, it doesn't mean radio stations, it means the charging stations. So you can always just click it, see a map, see where they are. And also, like Mark says, you can have the apps on your phone and stuff, which is super helpful. But yeah, it's not something that concerns us. But I think our closing advice to you would be is do a bit of research, download the apps that Mark's mentioned, see what charging stations are around where you live, how many of those are free. Think about your personal circumstances. Like both Mark and I, at our workplaces, both have electric charging points. So if we were driving to work, which we're mostly working at home at the moment, we could charge our car when we get to work and then come home. But yeah, think about your personal circumstances, see what's around you. You know, if you're rural and there's nothing really near you, that might affect it. And just look into what the particular costs for you might be. But yeah, do your research and try and get a longer test drive, or even just any test drive. But I think we'll leave it there. If anybody has any more questions that we didn't cover, if you drop them in the comments below, we'll try and answer them as best we can. And I've also written a blog post on this as well, so we'll put the link in the description so you can have a read of that if that's something you're interested in as well. So thank you very much for watching. If you haven't, please like it and subscribe and all that jazz, and we will see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.